Making sure that you have a good tenant, or specifically making sure that you don't have a bad tenant, is one of the most important thing about being a landlord or property investor. In fact, it will literally make or break your landlord or property investing experience. With that in mind, it's critically important that you use pre-vetting or pre-qualifying questions right at the start of the lettings process. So these are deal breaker questions that you ask the prospective tenant when they reach out to you, to double check and make sure they're going to be suitable for your property, and if your property is going to be suitable for them. Have a quick chat and pay attention to not just what the prospective tenant replies with, but the manner in which they reply with. So how they conduct themselves or how they reply to your questions. This will really determine what they will be like as a prospective tenant. During the lettings process, I would say, as somebody who has been in the property business for over 20 years, the single biggest red flag is when a prospective tenant reaches out to you, ignores all your questions, the questions you ask to try and help them, and act as if they are the boss of you. They're telling you what to do. That's simply not how it works. And the reason being is that a really important part of being a landlord and being a tenant is the tenant and landlord experience. The reason for this is that if things go wrong, if there is an emergency, you have to know that you can work with the tenant, and the tenant has to know that they can work with the landlord or lettings agent. So right from the start, if that prospective tenant reaches out to you blind, completely cold, and tell you what to do, and ignores your questions, the questions you ask to try and help them, then it's definitely a no-go. When you're pre-vetting a prospective tenant during the lettings process, one of the biggest red flags in my experience, as somebody who's been doing this for over 20 years, is when a prospective tenant tells you they have to move in or they want to move in immediately. We're talking about the very next day, and they keep rushing you. Now, in that situation, you have to ask yourself, why does this person need to move in so quickly? It's a really, really bad sign. You normally have to give your current place of accommodation a month's notice. The referencing process alone takes around about 7 days. That's after they've found a place and viewed it. With a tenant, you want someone who's organized and who will pay their rent on time. I mean, speaking as somebody who's been doing this over 20 years, we always try to help people that want to move in quickly, but 99% of the time, they'll disappear on you the very last minute, or they're consistently late with their rent. So it's a very bad sign.